I'm Carolyn Parker, which is basically a documentary about a woman's plight and quest to build her home back after Katrina.
Yeah.
So since I have this beautiful piece of art in my hands, and it's not smart water, it's actually real life film here. We're not promoting anything. I'm so interested in New Orleans, but it feels like Katrina has kind of, I can't decide whether it's completely divided the country and shown us, it has separated us even further than we are politically, economically, emotionally, socially, or whether it's the one thing we can all agree upon, or whether it's brought us all together.
I think that anyone who has been to New Orleans prior to the floods that followed Katrina, if you've been there, you love it. Maybe if you've heard the music and just get something about the idea, oh, and yeah, jambalaya, and if you get a cultural aroma, even if you haven't been there, you're pro-New Orleans in a big way. Our nation's leadership was, let's just say, was very slow in responding. Now, the media attention was there, and I think everybody's heart went out to the people of New Orleans, in the same way that recently Joplin was devastated, and you don't even have to have heard of Joplin to have your heart broken to think of those lives being impacted like that. But the coverage of Katrina and the floods and the post-flood was so intense, but then the media left. As a filmmaker and also as an American, I find myself going, well, what about the people? Now what? So the light bulb went off, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine, Cyril Neville from the Neville Brothers, called me up and told me about this kind of like these big plans that the city of New Orleans was making to raise and bulldoze all the neighborhoods that had been hit and flooded and turn them into green space to make New Orleans a more beautiful city and a more attractive city. And we won't worry about the people that lived there and grew up there and the culture that emanated from the Ninth Ward and from other fabulous neighborhoods. So I was really, it gave me a chance on a very personal level to go down and frankly pretend I was going to make a movie, but I could go down there and meet some of these people and film them, and who knows, as always the documentary, you have to kind of have your footage accumulate before you know whether it's actually going to turn into a film or not.
So you just went down there to film and
to bear witness. I can't hammer, I can't do anything, like practical, to get a house, but I can bear witness with my camera. So I did that, and by the second visit, I wanted to go 4 times over the course of 1 year, kind of an academic thing, like, here's what happened over the course of a year in these lives, in these neighborhoods. Well, one thing that happened was I'd fallen in love with Carolyn Parker, with Hariste Harrison, with Pastor Mel, with Malik Rahim, with different individuals who were talking to me every time I came down. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to keep going down until they're back in their houses. 2 years later, 3 years later, the obstructionism continues. But here's the other thing that was going on. Even as the federal government and the state government, city of New Orleans, not only were they not helping, they were obstructing. But waves of young Americans were going down there to do volunteer work and going into these forgotten neighborhoods and gutting the houses side by side with people like Carolyn Parker and painting them and putting roofs on them. So even as I became enraged every visit at the government, I also was like, oh, I'm so proud of our country. Look at these great young people. So, and it's the volunteers that really got Carolyn back into her house. So the film for me kind of had to be, I decided, well, wait, maybe I can make a film.
And last night you had Neil Young.
Yes.
And I always think of Neil Young as, I love his music, and he seemed kind of an aloof, self-contained artist, his own person, and yet with this and the footage that I've seen, he's such a storyteller.
Oh yeah.
And he's so kind of dynamic and the opposite of aloof, basically. And I always could never decide whether and after that, it was kind of funny. I wanted to ask you because Neil Young still kind of scares me a little. I still think he's like my neighbor that's going to chase me off the yard with a shovel.
Does he look like that?
Yeah. And then on the other side, you're like, wait, he's like kind of your favorite uncle that you just want to talk and hear his stories.
That's right. He's not your crazy neighbor. He's your favorite uncle.
He is your favorite uncle. It was his stories are just incredible, and he's such a storyteller. Well, you know, we're obviously fans of yours at Vanity Fair, so
Thank you.
And I am deeply personally one. So it's really nice to meet you, and it's very impressive. And I love. I didn't know you were a hippie. Now that everything.
Can you see it now?
Sense.
Can you kind of?
Everything makes sense now. Not really, but it's great to meet you.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck with these
Same
things, and have a
here.
great premiere tonight.